So, question one. Just going to, yes. So you can see in red, that's the mark scheme. Where it says M1, that is a method mark, and then the A1 is the accuracy mark at the end. If at the end of the day you've got the 20 right, you're going to get 3 out of 3. Okay. So remember what we're saying here. The key point is for irregular shapes, the exterior angles always add up to 360. So, and then remember that an interior and an exterior together add up to 180. They form a straight line. So they told you that the interior is 162. So you do 180, take away 162 to get 18. That's what each exterior angle is. Because they add up to 360, if you do 360 divided by 18, you get the 20. All right, so the vast majority of you got 20 out of 20. I might just see if I can just bear with me a second. I just want to see where I was trying to see where no, all right, I'll leave that. I was trying to see where I've got my where I've got the mark, what marks you got. Oh no, I've got it here. Super. So yes, so on question one, I think vast majority of you've got 3 out of 3 there. Okay, well done. Right, question 2. Now this one, yes, the vast majority did, but not all of you. Now I think it was Maddie. I got a bit confused. I couldn't quite read your 2 part 1 and 2 part 2. Whether you tried to switch those signs over. So if you meant the intersection one to be, well, just get back to me. Just send me a message in Teams later, Maddie, if you think you should have got 3 out of 3 there. It looked to me like you got them the wrong way round, but if you think you got them the right way round, please let me know. So I think it's always for question 2. Just do a little Venn diagram at the top to gather your thoughts, okay? And then obviously fill in the Venn diagram, okay? Don't just try and do it all in your head, please. I think this really helps, particularly with the harder bits. Now, A intersection B, that's what that upside down U means, okay? That is what's in A and in B. So that's the 12 and the 18 in the middle. So make sure you appreciate that means and, okay? A and in B. Whereas part 2, A union B, means you're in A or B or both. So that's everything in the 2 rugby balls together. I think it's quite nice if you can put them in numerical order. The person marking it is only human and they're tired, and it's going to make them less grumpy if you put them in order. But I don't think you would lose a mark. Now, be careful for part 3. All right? Not A means you're not in A. So it's obviously the 11, 13, 17 and 19. But do pick up, make sure you pick up the 15 as well, because obviously that 15 is also not an A. I think one or two of you just dropped a mark because of that part 3. You missed out the 15. Right, but that said, I think the vast majority of you got that one right, so we won't hang around for there too long. Now for part 3, again, it was question 3, it was very well done. Vast majority of you got this completely right. Do remember that it's a product, you must put in the multiplication signs. All right, I think 1 or 2 of you were putting in commas, so you dropped a mark. Now, obviously for part B, you can do it any way you like. And lots of you just worked it out because you're brainy. You just did it a bit by trial and error, and that's fine. At the end of the day, you will get the 5. But the quick way is to use your knowledge of the of what you've just done in part A. In order for it to be a square number, you've got to have an even number of all the numbers in it, because they can then split either side. So we've got an even number of 2s. Yeah, so we can have 2 2s over here and 2 2s over here. We've got an even number of 3s. We don't have an even number of 5s. So that was the quick way to work out that you needed to multiply by 5, because multiplying by 5 will make part A, will make all the numbers even. So as I said, you only had to write down 5. You didn't have to show any workings. That's what B1 means. They expect you to be almost able to do that in your head. Okay, so those of you who worked it out another way, that's fine, but you're using up valuable seconds. Right, question 4. This was very well done by the vast majority of you. Okay, I think, yes, some of you are just getting part C wrong. So for part, obviously T to the 6, W to the 12. Now remember for part C, each of the components has to be cubed. So I would suggest you write this down to gather your thoughts. So 5 cubed is 125, x cubed is obviously x cubed, and where you've got a power inside the bracket and a power outside the bracket, you multiply them together. So that's why it's y to the power of 6. You got 1 mark if you got 2 of these parts right, and you got both marks if you got all 3. If you just got 1 of these right, you didn't get anything. Okay, so lots of you, for a reason I didn't really understand, were just putting x, not x cubed, and some of you were giving me 15 at the beginning. Brilliant, 5 cubed is 15, wonderful. Okay, but the vast majority of you got that right, so well done. Question 5. Again, trial and error is absolutely fine for this. It just takes a bit of time. There are a number of different algebraic ways to do it. This is the way I thought it through. We've now got Tom is 15 and Clemmy is x, so that's the ratio now. Now, 3 years ago, obviously Tom was 12 and Clemmy would be whatever it is now, take away 3. Now, what do we know about the situation 3 years ago? We know the ratio was 2 to 7. So we know this 12 to x minus 3 has got to be in the ratio of 2 to 7. Now I can say you can either do it 2 ways. You can either turn the 12, you can either divide the 12 by 2 and multiply by 7. That would be fine. Or the way I looked at it, I just sort of looked at the ratio vertically. So I could see that to go from the 2 to the 12, I multiplied by 6. So to go from here to here, I multiplied by 6. So this has got to be 42 altogether, therefore x had to be 45. Now that, you might think that's quite a complicated way of doing it. I really don't mind how you did it, but you need to have a way to get 45. Now question 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you. Yeah, the vast majority of you got that. I think only 1 of you didn't, I think. Okay, so well done on that. Right, question 6. This was generally well done. Okay, so it's generally well done. It's quite a lot of marks for this. I'd say 2/3 of you got this completely right. So just process the information in the question. So if you don't go by bus, you're walking, remember the crocodile mouth must add up to a whole. So 0.3 and 0.7. The question told you the 0.2, so that had to be 0.8 to create a whole. The question told you the 0.1, so that had to be 0.9 to create a whole. Now for part B, work out an estimate for the number of days Barney will be late. So you've got to start off by working out the probability of it happening. So you're either late by ending up here. I'll just put it back on the screen so I can see what you're seeing. You can see that I'm wiggling my thing. Yeah, so you've either got to end up here. Why don't I just mark it with a fluorescent pen? So how do you end up here? That's being late. Let's see what the lag's like. Oh, it's quite a lag. You can't see that fluorescent pen yet, can you? Oh, no, you can. So you've either got to end up there or you've got to end up there. So how do you work out those 2 lates? I'm going to keep talking, I'd appreciate the fluorescent pen's going to be a bit later. So to end up at that top one, you've gone past the 0.3 and the 0.2. You're catching the bus and you've got to be late, so make sure you multiply those. That gave you the 0.6. The other way of being late is by going down there, then up there, which is my light blue one that's just coming through, and that gave you a probability of being late of 0.07. So remember, you're multiplying those. Now, you don't mind being late either of those 2 ways, so you've got to add those 2 together, and that gives you an overall probability of 0.13. Now, that gave you 2 marks. Some of you decided that's what the question asked and just gave me a final answer of 0.13. Read the question. Now, Barney would go to college on 200 days next year. So in order to work out how many days he's likely to be late, you take your probability from part A. You take that probability of 0.13, you multiply it by 200, and that gave you the 26. So there was a method mark. Even if you completely messed up 6 part A, if I could see in part B that you knew you had to multiply it by 200, that should have given you 1 mark, and then the accuracy mark was for getting the 26. Okay, question number 7. Now, generally speaking, part A was done well. Okay, 12t squared minus 12t plus 5. Okay, when you go and differentiate it. So if you got 2 of those 3 terms correct, you picked up 1 mark. And then if you got all 3 correct, you picked up the 2nd mark. A number of you missed out the plus 5. Now, for part B, where a number of you, lots of you were going wrong, you didn't read the question. The question says when the acceleration is 6. It doesn't say whether velocity is 6. So quite a few of you, you've got to improve your exam technique. So make sure you're circling the key words. Circle the fact that it says acceleration. Now, how do you work out acceleration? You've got to differentiate the velocity. So you go and differentiate the answer you got for part A. So that gives you 24t minus 12. Now, some of you got that far and then still misread it. It's not the time being 6. It's the actual acceleration being 6. So you've got to set that to being equal to 6. You've got to set that for being equal to 6. You then go and solve that, and that gives you a time of 3/4 of a second. So well done, those of you who got that one right. So that was question 7. So well done, Daisy, Alex, Ebbs, Emma, Hannah, and I think, yeah, and Tracy, I think. I hadn't marked Tracy's at this point. I think Tracy got it right as well. So very well done, those people. Now, we then get on to the stinker. So absolutely brilliant, Tracy, that you managed to get this right. No one else was near. Now, exam technique. You will see that there's buckets going on that slide. Let me just check that you can see it, that you caught up with me. Yeah. But 2 of the 5 marks were ever so easy to get, with those 2 marks up in the top right-hand corner. Now, some of you were writing down minus a plus c, but you weren't making it clear that that is vector going from A to C. So just make it clear what you're working out. So if you could go and make it clear that you appreciated going from A to C was minus A plus C, or C minus A, same thing, you got a mark. If you could go and make it clear that you realized that AP was 3/4 of the journey to AB, and A to B, the question told us was 2C, then again, you picked up a mark. So I think the moral of the story with this question is, whilst it is very difficult, you can see it was the last question on this paper, 2 out of 5 marks were very accessible. The other 3 weren't. Okay, so if nothing else, make sure that you are comfortable. You get the 2 marks in the top right-hand corner, please. Now, this is pretty much an A-level topic. Okay, I taught this to my lower 6th 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's the hardest bit at lower 6th A-level vectors. So don't beat yourself up if you struggle for this. Now, the question is asking us to go and work out the ratio of A to Q to C. Now, really, that point about, so really, we're going to need to know something about Q, okay? So what we're going to need to do, we're going to work out the vector from O to Q. Once we know that, that will allow us to go and work out what's going on between A to Q and Q to C. Lots of you were just kind of hoping it was halfway along, and that's just completely wrong. Now, this is difficult. To go from O to Q, given we don't know much information, we've got to get there 2 completely different ways. So notice how the light blue is me going up that blue line, and then a bit later on we get there going down a different road. We go doing the orange route. By doing it 2 different routes, we're going to generate a simultaneous equation, and that will allow us to figure it out. But you've got to get the overall picture. You've got to decide, you've got to go 2 different routes to end up at Q. So look at bottom left-hand corner where I've titled it up. This is me going along the blue route where I go from O to Q directly. Now, what I know is that some unknown fraction of the vector from O to P. I don't know if that little blue line is halfway along that line or whatever. I don't know. So that little mu that I put in, that little sign in front of the OP, I'll just point at it now. Hopefully you'll see the pointer come. Oh no, I've just gone and I've gone and made it pink. That that mu is just representing it's some unknown fraction of OP. Now, what do I know about the vector from O to P? Well, that's me going from O to A and A to P, isn't it? So as I've written in the next line, to go from O to P, I am going from O to A, then A to P. So O to A is a little vector A, and A to P, I've gone and worked out in the top right-hand corner, that was the 1.5 C's. I've then gone and multiplied out the brackets. I've done the claw, and then I've parked that. So what I know from my knowledge of going the blue route, I've got an unknown fraction, mu lots of A, and 3 over 2 mu lots of C. And you park that for now. That's going to be your equation number 1 that you revisit shortly. So that's all from going along the light blue routes. We then start again and we go from OQ going the orange route. Okay, now how do I go along the orange route? I go from O to A and then I go from A to Q. That's just those 2 orange arrows in the corner. Now, what do I know about A to Q? What do I know about A to Q? It is some unknown fraction of A to C. It is some unknown fraction of A to C. It's a different unknown fraction. I've chosen to call it beta. Okay, I've chosen to call it beta and call it what you like. Okay. Again, this was the bit where lots of you were just hoping it was a half, but it isn't. So, can I now go and convert all of this into sort of lowercase stuff? Yes, I can. The vector from O to A is A, and the vector from A to C is what I worked out in the top right-hand corner. That's minus A plus C. I then go and multiply out that bracket. I do the claw, and that gives me A minus beta A plus beta C. Now, this is important. You then go and gather up all your A's and you gather up all your C's. So I've gone and factorized the A minus beta, okay? And that's where I've got the 1 minus beta lots of A. So just check how I've got that. That is factorizing the 2 terms above. I'm taking an A outside the brackets and I'm left with 1 minus beta. Now, once I've done that, can you see, if you go and look in the bottom left-hand corner, I'm just changing my fluorescent pen color, just should come through shortly, that one there, and this second one that I'm just circling now, those are the same vectors. They are both going from O to Q, so they've got to be identical. So the coefficient of A, that bit I've highlighted in red, just wait for the circle to come through, that coefficient of A in the bottom left-hand side has to be the same as 1 minus beta, the other coefficient of A. I'm just circling that now. Those 2 vectors are the same. They are both O to Q. So the A component and the C component have to be the same. Therefore, those are the same. That's creating my first new equation. Can you see that just circled there? I know that mu equals 1 minus beta. Move on to the second part. That coefficient of C, that 3 over 2 mu, has to equal beta, because these vectors are the same, and that gives me my second equation. So I've now got 2 equations with 2 unknowns, mu and beta. I then just basically work through that simultaneous equation, and that allows me to work out that beta is 3/5. Okay, beta is 3/5. So now remind yourself what beta was. Beta is how far along AQ we go. So beta is that fraction along there. Okay, so beta is telling us that AQ is 3/5 of the total journey. So AQ is 3 out of a total journey of 5. So that second one must be 2. Okay, it was 3. AQ is 3/5 of A to C. So so the ratio of A to Q to C must be 3:2. Now that is extremely difficult. All right, you can still get your 9 without understanding the last 3 marks of that question. Okay, that's what really sorts out the 9s from the 9 stars. Okay, so you would expect a top set to only have 1 or 2 kids who can do that. Okay, and at the moment it was only Tracy who could do that. But what you all want to be able to do, guys, is to be able to pick up those 2 marks in the top right-hand corner. You could then just sit back, light your cigar and think, well, I've probably already got enough marks for a 9, and just don't worry about those final 3 marks. Okay, so what I want to do, please just stay muted and keep your cameras off just while I stop the recording. And then once I've stopped the recording, I'll take any questions that you've got on any of those questions.